Hi everyone, this is Carlos Betancourt from Merida Living. Today I have the honor to invite you to our new session of podcast, and I have a bigger honor to present to you to architect Fernando ABREU from Centro Architects, one of the most beloved architects in the expat community, one of the very best in the area. And thank you for joining us, and here we go.
Thank you, Carlos, for the introduction. Very nice, and it's a pleasure to be here. And let's have some fun.
So, Fernando, tell me, how did you find this property, and what inspired you to remodel it?
Well, actually, the owner was the one that found the property, and he had a very good eye because he's an artist. So it was very exciting to me to work with him. And when we saw the property, when I went and visit with him, I saw a lot of potential in the house. I think it was there was part of the building, like almost half of the property was a building, and then the other part was open. So I saw that connection between the interior and exterior that had a very good opportunity to do a great project.
Okay, and what attracted you in particular about this property?
Well, it was very well located. So that was a great point. I love the facade of it. It already have a lot of elements that were very nice. And it was just very simple. Like it had a very good feeling to it that I thought it could be a very well combination in between something contemporary, that it's clean and not many moldings, maybe some in the facade, but that's fine. And then the interiors were a little bit more clean. So I thought that would be a great opportunity to do something nice.
Yeah, it has a really good location in Santiago. What was the condition of the property before you started any construction work?
Yeah, it was actually a disaster.
Yeah.
It was really bad. All the walls were like losing their finish. The roof was in pretty bad condition. There was some areas that have tin roof, like on the back. And I remember it had a well on the back, and it was all clean, like there was nothing on the back. And then on the side of the house, there was another big area that was all open. And we saw that it had a big septic tank there, almost like a room underground. So it was in pretty bad condition for a house, kind of normal for the type of houses that are in that area. But again, it had a lot of potential, and the structure, which is the masonry walls and the mamposteria walls, they are very strong. I mean, they have been there for years, and it was something that you can definitely reuse for a new project.
Okay, very good to know. What was your main vision when working for the architectural plan of this property?
It was a very interesting thing because working with somebody that has a good eye of design, it's very enriching. And I think we had a very great connection, and that's hard to find sometimes, like find the right client that helps you develop something better. So when we started thinking about what we're going to do with the house, one of the main things for him was to have lit spaces, so with a lot of lighting coming in, natural light. So we put some skylights in almost all the house. Also the bathrooms have skylights, so everything has skylights, and the skylights provide some lighting, but they also provide ventilation. And we thought about this idea of doing doors, like normally in Centro you have these wood doors, right? But we put some glass doors with ironwork and wrought iron. And the wrought iron was taken from one design that we found on many buildings in Centro. And we put it together and then put these glass panels on the doors, which allow you to open the doors. So you have the screen and the iron, and then you have the glass, and you can close it to use the air conditioner or open it to get ventilation. But that allows us to have a bunch of lighting into the space, and so it created this atmosphere of like almost, I don't know, it's surprising. You get in and you feel the space and you're looking at the light on the wall, and it just makes it a very nice and beautiful space.
Okay, that's a very smart design. One of my favorite questions: how do you blend the preserving the original elements with modernization?
So that's that's something that we have been specialized on, like kind of like with the time we have developed this sense for how can we preserve and what to preserve and make it in a way that it looks more contemporary or cleaner, slight, I don't know, like nice, you know? So for this house in particular, we use a lot of exposed or cement.
Mm-hmm.
So cement is the natural color. So all the house is white cement. And then something that we did is in the water elements, like the pool or a fountain that will have the entrance, we put gray. And also the bathtub. There is a nice bathtub that is open to the sky. And in this one, we put gray cement on them just because it was the water. And the facade was also exposed cement. So you don't have painting. And the main reason is in the company we work for a lot of people doing maintenance. And one of the main issues is humidity. So you get the walls, humidity coming from all the walls, and you get all the painting falling off. So you don't want that to happen. So what we did is to make everything with a finish of cement, and it actually gives a patina to the wall because all the moisture, you can still see it, but it makes these artistic patterns on the wall that makes it very interesting. So it was nice to come with that solution.
What were some of the most important aspects that you decided to preserve?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think one of the main things was the facade. The facade had all of these beautiful elements, these triangles on top of the doors, and the moldings and the cornice, and everything was very nice. So what we did is, by using the cement color or the natural cement, give it a little bit of more contemporary look, but all of the moldings are there, and the doors that are made out of wood, and so have some iron with the typical little windows on the doors, you know, the Yucatecan doors that are very, very particular, and many people recognize them as a Yucatecan feature from the haciendas and other buildings, right? And then the windows and the wrought iron, it's beautiful. I mean, some of the main things that people like when they come to Merida is to see the facades, you know?
Yeah.
And we try to, I mean, we basically preserve the facade because it's also a rule, but we really enjoy using some of the elements also inside the house. So inside the house you have wrought iron on the windows, doors, and then you have doors that are wood, and some other elements that we use inside the house and we preserve. Actually, the pool has two walls that kind of go into it a little bit, and that was a room that was there, and we were like, how do we preserve this room but at the same time have the pool there? So one of the ideas was to make a room and you will pass under on the pool and you will be inside that room, but it was kind of like it will make it cold or whatever. So we decided to it didn't have a roof at when we find the house, so we leave these two walls and we leave this part and this part of the wall and make the pool go across through them. And I think that was really cool because when you see the walls there, you kind of ask yourself, like, what are those walls doing there, right? But it was a room that was there originally of Mamposteria. And so I think that was one of the things that, you know, you find there and you kind of develop without thinking.
Now, a challenging question. So with the new spaces, with the modernization you had planned for the property, how do you make these new spaces to be in harmony with the history of the house?
That's a really good question. Well, that's one of the main challenges, and that's one of the things that I really like about my profession and what we do. I mean, if you work as an architect, you have the opportunity to do new projects, and some people like the challenge of having a canvas with nothing, you know, a lot, and then you have to develop something. I love the challenge of having something already there that you have to reintegrate and reuse. And I tell my clients, don't think about where the kitchen was and you're gonna do the kitchen in the same place. It doesn't matter. Like you're giving it a new concept. So you can put the kitchen where it makes more sense now, for the use that you're gonna have now in the house. And so one of the things that we did that I think was very interesting was 60% of the house more or less was leave like it was. And so on the front you have the dining, the kitchen, and then you have the TV room. And then you go into the master bedroom. All those spaces were basically there. So we preserve that section. When you enter the house, you have another section that it was there also at the beginning. And what we decided to do was making a space that was like a transition. So you enter the house in a space that is inside. It's a room, but it doesn't have windows or doors. It just have the openings. So you can see the pool and the garden, and you can see all of these features of the house, and you kind of discover the house as you enter. So you are in a place that is inside and outside at the same time.
Very cool.
And then as you go out, you have this terrace that goes all the way to the middle of the house, and then you have a little hallway. But that's connected with arches that we put. Those arches weren't there. So we put all these arches and this pathway that basically connected the whole thing together in a way that it looks like everything was there since the beginning. So that was very challenging, but that's kind of the type of challenge that I like to
That's
to
part of
resolve.
the charm.
Yeah, that's part of the charm of the houses.
So Fernando, tell me, how long did it take you to design, to do the architectural plan for this property?
That's a good question. Many people think that design is like something that you can get really quickly, but it really depends on a lot of factors. It depends on the client. It depends on your connection with the client. In this case, for this house, the client knew exactly what he wanted, So it was very easy, and we have ideas that were very aligned. So when we have to take decisions, the decisions were made pretty quickly, and even that we have 3D models, even that we have the drawings, even that we have everything. When you start a construction, you see things that only when you're there you can tell and say, you know what, this maybe will work better this other way. So there are changes during the construction, but it took us in this case, about 6 months to develop all of the design. And basically, on the first phase, what you do is you develop the basic drawings, basically working on the plans, floor plans, and then you go to the elevations, and then you go to the 3D modeling, and then after that you can start working on the lighting, electrical, plumbing, and all of that. Also, when you put it, then you might realize that you need to change something from the design at the beginning, right?
Okay.
So it's a complex process, and it depends also, like you're talking about 6 months. In 3 months, the client might talk to their friends and show them their plans, and they come out with another idea. Okay, let's change it. But now I have to change all of these other things, right? So it is a process, and it's an interesting process, but I really enjoy it.
Okay, so it took you 6 months to work on the design of the architectural plan. From there, the next step is to submit the papers, to submit the design to INA, the institute that protects the historical properties, right?
Correct.
How long did it take you to get the permit?
So at that point, it took us about 8 months to get the permit, which it was good because right now the normal time is about a year and a half. And the reason is there is a lot of development. I mean, Centro is growing. There's a lot of buildings, new buildings, a lot of permitting, a lot of things happening. So, I mean, I can see how they're overwhelmed with a lot of trying to figure all this out. But the process of permitting is something that people should take into consideration because it really takes a long time to go through all this process. And you need to kind of work with people that are experts on that type of building, because if not, you're going to run into problems that you could have prevented if somebody that knows what the rules are, right?
Okay, so 6 months of architectural plan, about 8 months of permits.
Correct.
And then you can start the construction.
Not really.
No? Okay.
So when you finish the design, well, you don't have to finish the design. What you submit for permitting is the plans and elevations, and they don't you don't really need to solve all of the electrical, plumbing, and all that for that section. So the technical plans can be, what we do is we submit what we have, and then we develop the technical plans. Otherwise, it's gonna eat up our time, right?
Okay.
So to gain some time, what you do is you send the design, and then you're still working on those technical plans. So once you get the permit from INA, then you have to do municipality, and municipality is another 3 months.
Okay.
So after that, you can do construction. Many people think that they can start demolition just whenever they want.
You can't.
No, you can't. You cannot even paint a facade if you don't have a permit. Many people don't know that.
Okay.
And yeah, if you start, they probably gonna stop you until you get your permits, which is gonna be a year later. So you spend all this money, and people don't know. People will tell you, "Oh no, don't worry about it. We'll start construction," but no, you need to do your permits.
Okay, this is good information. So after the municipality permit, then you can start construction. How long did it take you to build a house like this?
Well, this was a very particular house because it like the last part of it happening during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So you know how everybody stopped working. We have all these prohibitive rules, like you can't build, you can't be in spaces. So it was very challenging because that happened almost when the finishes of the house were happening. So it took us about 1 year and 3 months to complete the project. And what was crazy was that actually the owner was seeing everything from the US. He didn't come, he came for like 3 or 4 times during the whole process. And then when the house was done, it was several months before he came and actually saw the final product.
Okay.
Because of the pandemic.
What was his reaction?
Oh, well, he really, really loved it. But
pleased.
the reason was he really was involved into all of the process. And we tried to, we normally work for people that are not here.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a system where we are trying to send them information, pictures every day, so they see all the process and they understand what's going on with the building, right? So.
Okay. Now, without saying any numbers, from whatever it cost to build the property a few years, when did you build it? Which year?
It was during the pandemic.
So 2021?
Yeah.
21, 22? So from 21, 22 to today,
Mm-hmm.
without saying any numbers, how much more expensive is it to build the same property today?
Yeah. So there's many factors, especially materials. So materials have gone up. Labor, not as much as the materials, as you know. But during the pandemic, there was this effect where the materials got really expensive because there was no way to get sand, for example, for construction. So they raised the prices. But when the pandemic was gone, the prices just stay like that. So you get all these material increase, and then the labor also was, you didn't have much people also because of the pandemic, and so the prices also increase. So about at 25% is the increase, if we want to do the same house today.
Okay, Fernando, what were some of the biggest technical challenges you encountered when starting the project, the restoration project?
So one of the things that is complicated about working in Centro is that many people don't understand is that you got materials that are specialized materials. So you have the pasta tile floor, which if you don't know how to put it down and lay it down, you can make big mistakes. And you can, if you don't know how to apply the grout on it, you will make stains that are gonna stay there, and there's no way to get them out because this is cement, it's porous. It gets a stain, you know. And if you don't put it on the right time, you might get like dirt or things that stain it. And then, so the specialized people that can help you do all of those different craftsmen, you know, like mamposteria walls. Not everybody knows how to put the rocks in the right place, right?
Polished concrete.
Polished concrete. No, everybody knows how to polish concrete. So that I think is one of the most challenging technical things that you have to deal with. You have to find good people that specialize on these type of things, including doing the wood doors, what type of wood to use, the wrought iron, how to make it clean, how to, make it in patterns or in, different ways that make sense and are well done too.
Okay. So now you're in the middle of construction, you already started the project, and was there any unexpected issue, problem that you encountered, like something you had not encountered before?
Yeah. Well, in this particular project, there was a very interesting thing. It was at the moment it was kind of like bad, but what happened is we went to the house, and on the ceilings, you can see the ceiling had some metal beams, but the metal beam you can only see the bottom of it. So it's an I-beam. So you have the top, the bottom, and the middle. And the only thing that you can see is the bottom of the beam. And between the beams, there was an arch of cement. So when we start, there was some parts of the house that were deteriorated. So we have to break some of the ceilings or the roof, basically. And when we break some of these roofs, we start seeing that the beams on the, we call the alma, which is the middle part of the beam. So you have the bottom, the top, and the middle. In this middle part, there was holes through the whole beam. So there were beams that needed to be replaced, because when people don't take care of the roofs, you get if you don't have waterproofing, so the water penetrates and the humidity make the metal rust and deteriorate. And so we had to take down, because we talked to the engineers and we were like, we need to take all of this down. So actually that house, all of the roofs were taken down, and the challenge was that we have to put it on the same way. So they have to look the exact same when we put it back. So we have to repair some of the beams, we have to replace some of the beams, and what we do is we put them back, we put a normal roof, bigueta y bovedilla, which is what we use normally in the Yucatan, and then under it, there is a layer with the beams, and we have to do the arches on it, on cement. And it was super challenging, because, we didn't know how to do the arches, and we have to talk to people, find the right people to do it. So it was very interesting. At the end of the day, the opportunity to move the beams was good, because we were able to leave the skylights, which make a hole in the ceiling, and then you have the beams, and we were able to move them in a way that we have center beams where we could put our fans, and then the lighting was also put in these beams, and since they were center, it makes sense. So when you put a chandelier, it was in a beam in the middle of the space, rather than whatever they were before, that they were not in a certain pattern. So that was challenging, but actually gave us a good opportunity to do this. One of the other things that happened because of that was that we have to go to INA and resubmit the permit, because that wasn't in the original permit. We didn't say that we're going to demolish all of this. So that also takes some time. So that was by far probably the most difficult thing. Yes.
So to get it right, you took down the ceiling, you put the roof, you put a new roof, but you use the same beams as decorative beams. We
use most of the beams as decorative, and then we have to do the arch between them, because it basically the whole beam is hidden under the cement, so you just see the bottom of it.
Right, but you're no longer using these beams as a structural, but as decorative.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. How do you handle structural issues? You're an architect, but you know a lot about construction. Right. But I'm sure you have some limitations. And do you have any support with engineers?
Yeah. So when I was I had a master's on construction management, uh, in the Wadi. And what I learned in that process, I took like a year of structural engineering.
Okay.
So I study concrete structures, metal structures, and I learned basically the basics. And one of the things that was very clear to me after studying that was that I need a structural engineer for every project. Like, we need to make sure that somebody is looking into it and making sure that things are secure, right? So we work closely with a team of engineers that are very helpful, and it gives us a big peace of mind to work with them. So that's basically how we handle that part of the project, working with specialists on that fact.
Okay. How do you handle the preserving the heritage of the property in the construction? Is there any like a special technique to preserve some of the heritage of the property?
Yeah, definitely. The house is in INA's jurisdiction, and that's something I tell my clients, like, check before you buy a house if it's in INA jurisdiction and if you have the time to wait for the permits, because there's no way around it. You're going to wait for a year and a half to get your permits. So that's something that you have to take into consideration when you buy a house. So if you buy the house it's in INA's jurisdiction, then you have to comply with all the things that they ask you for. So in this case, for example, we needed to put pasta tiles. So I cannot use ceramic tiles, at least on the main parts of the house. And then we have to preserve the ceiling, like it was with the beams. Another thing is, for example, if you want to put a bathroom, a half bathroom, you're cutting the space. So you can't really put a half bathroom. It's hard to modify the house and give it the new use when you have those type of restrictions. So it is one of the most difficult things to work in Centro, I think, because you have to comply with a lot of things. And many people, it's very common to see people that say, no, they're just going to tell you about the facade. Or they're just going to tell you about the facade and the first room. Don't worry about the rest of the house. That's not true. They will tell you what to do from the front of your house to the back. So, I mean, if they decide or they see that the house has an historical value, half of the house, and you need to do pasta tile, you have to do pasta tile. If you want to put aluminum doors, but that's not part of the history of the house, then you can't put them. You need to use wood. And people think, oh, I can do this house for cheap. Not really. I mean, there is things that you have to use because of the regulations. So it makes it expensive because you have to use the right materials and the right people to do those type of things. So it's something good to know.
Right. This is good, valuable information. How do you choose which colors to use, which finishes to use, which textures to use? How do you come up with all of that?
Well, of course, it has to do a lot with the client. It has to do a lot with preserving the type of finishes and regulations, actually. So in this house in particular, the owner, since he does paintings, he wanted to put big format paintings on the walls. So he wanted basically a canvas. So many of the colors were very monochromatic. All of the patterns of the floor, for example, were in colors like black, white, gray. And then the walls were white cement, and we use gray cement. And all of these, we use also stones, texture on rooms. So you can see like that charm that many people use in Merida, you know. And so that's kind of what drives us to the materials used in the house. But now, I mean, when I see the house and I see the art hanging there, I'm like, wow.
Makes sense.
Makes sense because that's like the focal point, and it makes sense because it's an artist's house. So that's what you want, right? So it was very interesting to do a canvas basically for art, and in this particular case, we take a lot of, one other thing that we did is use local materials. So almost the whole house is made with a lot of local materials. And I think that's important for the preservation of our culture and of Merida's heritage, right?
Right, and that's what people want. That's the reason. One of the reasons why they buy in Centro.
Exactly.
To get those materials, to feel more local, to feel part of the community.
Right.
And we have discussed so far how did you preserve the some of the original elements. But now I would like to ask you, how did you incorporate modern elements?
Yeah. So one of the things that I would like to say first is the garage. I mean, the garage is something that has become important for people. Mm-hmm. So when you buy a house in Centro, be aware that the garage is something that is very difficult to get in a house, especially because you're modifying the facade. So if you have a door that has historic value and a window, and you want to make that window a bigger door with more doors inside, that's changing the facade. That's changing the history of the building, and that's going to be complicated in permits. Now, if you, when you use a house, you also have different elements, like you use more electricity, you have to use new systems, you have to do, for example, hydraulic systems, you have to put pressure systems for the house to come out faster. You also can use water softeners, which are very popular because when you use a water dishwasher or when you use a washer machine, you have these elements of the water that we have is very hard. So it deteriorates them really quickly. And so people prefer to use the water softeners that are very popular in this type of houses. So these are the elements that you have to put in these houses. And it's complicated because one of the difficult parts to me when I design is finding the right place to put the half bathroom first because it's a small space and you're like, where do I put this? You know, and these are big spaces where you have high ceilings, and putting a room like that is complicated to introduce. And then the other thing is the mechanical room, which is where you put all of these new elements. So in the case of 63, what we did is we put it on the back. So there is a stair on the back that allows you to go to the roof, which have very nice views. So behind that staircase, or that stair, because it's an open stair, behind that wall is all of the half bathroom, the mechanical room, and the laundry. So everything is in one section, and it works perfectly because you think that the property ends there, but really you have that behind it. And I think that was a great solution because you preserve all of the building like it was, with the open spaces, connections in between the interior and exterior, and you don't have any divisions with these elements. So, and they're also in the back, so they don't affect with the noises or whatever to perturb like the people in the house, right?
Did you integrate into the property any sustainable architectural principles?
Well, using a house in Centro, by all means, it's actually recycling, right? So you don't have to get new materials to build it. It already has those walls that you can reuse, that foundation. So that in itself is like recycling, right? So I think that's very important. And another thing that was very important to us was the ventilation. And that's hard in Centro, right? Because you have houses that are right beside each other, so you can't put windows. So what we did is skylights, and these skylights bring ventilation through the space. And the high ceilings also that houses have by default also help with dropping the temperature, so you don't use as much the air conditioner. So having a great ventilation and having also lighting going into the space with the modifications that we did on the doors and the skylights together, you get all this lighting, so you don't need to use artificial light in the house most of the day. So I think those elements are simple, but they are important for that. Also, using raw materials like the apparent cement, you don't have to use paint. And if you think about it, if you have to paint a house every 6 months or every year in the case of Centro, right, you are contributing to use less of that material, and that's also good for the environment, I think.
So Fernando, what do you think of the environmental impact of restoring a property versus building a new one from scratch?
One of the main things is that you are using space on the city that is already there.
Okay.
So if you don't use that space, chances are that you're going to go somewhere else where there is already a lot of density, and you are modifying the city and making it bigger, where you're leaving all these spaces that right now they're not used. Like right now there is a bunch of abandoned places, and I can't believe sometimes people said, oh no, don't go and overpopulate Centro. But I mean, it's recycling, it's good. People can use a space that otherwise is abandoned. It creates pests, it creates mosquitoes in many cases, and it's just places that don't have any use. Why not use them? I mean, to me sometimes it's frustrating to see all the bureaucracy and the difficulties to get a project going when you want them to be moving and developing and getting the downtown a beautiful place, right? Where everybody can enjoy it, because at the end of the day, everybody walks on the street. Everybody like enjoys the facades, enjoys the place, and having a place where people just can get in and do drugs or whatever, it's pretty bad for the city at the end of the day. So if you have these places renovated and make them a good place, then you are improving the whole city and the whole feeling for everyone, not just for some people, right?
Okay, Fernando, thank you for all the information you have shared with us so far. We have learned a lot. From this project, is there anything you learned that you will apply in the future?
Well, in the process of the house, one of the main things that we pay attention was to the details. Because as I mentioned on several occasions, the owner was an artist. So we have to pay attention to things. The tile on the floor, for example, we align it to the island, we align it to the rest of the kitchen, we make sure the beams were centered on the space, the patterns in the house. For example, the wrought iron doors had a pattern, and that pattern fits perfectly in every door. So details like that, at that point, before working with somebody like that, I kind of like didn't pay that much attention, and now they're crucial to me. Like, it's very important, and that's why we try to do 1 or 2 houses a year, so I can personally be there the most of the time and with the client and make sure that all of these small details are seen and are taken care of. And that to me is very, very important, and I think that makes the whole difference from other architects that make 10 houses at the same time, but you don't have time to be there and pay attention to those details. So for me, that has been very important through my career to pay attention to details and to make sure that the design is nice. It doesn't matter if you have a house that is a lot of money or less money. The details are what makes it incredible and makes it nice for people.
Very good. Thank you, Fernando. Is there anything that you may have changed in this property? Something that you say, okay, from what I have learned, maybe I would have done this differently?
I don't think so, actually. It's one of my favorite projects that we have done at the office at Centro Architects, and to me, I'm very proud of that house. I think it was a combination of things: the right client, the right project, and so to me, I think the house is beautiful as it is, and I don't think I would change something from it.
Oh, wow. What advice would you give to anyone interested on looking to buy a house or looking to restore a house? What advice would you give them?
So it's funny that you asked that, because not long ago I gave a talk about doing inspections in houses.
At the library.
Yeah. So one of the main things is get professionals that are in the right areas that you're looking for. So get somebody that knows what they're doing, basically. When you gonna do a house, find the right person to buy it from, find the right person to do the design, to do the construction, to do all your paperwork, and the lawyers that you're gonna use. I mean, these people should be experts or at least have experience working in Centro. Otherwise, you run into a lot of trouble. I have clients that have used architects that are not familiar with problems in Centro and apply. Let's say, for example, we know there is a lot of humidity on the walls of Mamposteria, and you know that if you put a certain type of paint or if you put a certain type of finish, it will come off. So you know what to use, right? So that's just an example, but my main advice will be to get the right people to guide you, and also to be aware of the permits and things that you have to go through, because they take time, and time is money.
What is your favorite part of this renovation?
To me, one of the beautiful aspects of the house is the water. I think the water is present since you enter the house. So when you enter the house, there is a fountain in there, and it was an existing window right there, and we put the water on the space, and it crosses the window and goes into another pond on the exterior, which is very nice. The noise and having the water there is very calming. So people really like that. And then it makes you, when you enter the house, there is a wall in front of you. So it kind of makes you go towards the window. And so when you get to the window and you look out, then you see the fountain, and in front of it, there is the pool. So all of this connection of water. And then in the bathroom, in the master bathroom or the main bathroom, there is an exterior place where there is a garden and there is a bathtub that you can look up and you can see the sky.
Yeah, that's really nice.
Which is beautiful. I mean, I think the water is a feature that really make the house incredible and nice and peaceful. And I really enjoy that of the house.
Okay, thank you. And which kind of new projects would you like to undertake?
I think one of the things that we have found in the office in Centro is that we can do more impact doing smaller projects. So rather than taking big projects, we are tending to take more projects like kitchen renovations, extending patios or terraces or bedrooms and things in the house, modifying the house to improve it. And that's having more impact at the end of the day. We also do maintenance. So that's like a everyday thing. And actually that teaches us a bunch of information because we're fixing other people's problems, right?
Right.
So all of this experience, we use it. And in the future, I really will love to work more in smaller parts and have more impact into much more houses than having one big project that does a small impact, right?
Okay. So Fernando, how do you describe, what feeling do you get when you see a forgotten house and when you see it back to life? How do you feel?
To me, it's a very nice feeling to see something that you do, that you create, but it's also a big responsibility because you're really taking something that is already there and it has a value already. I mean, a very important value for people and the history of the Yucatan, the history of Mérida, and you're giving it a new meaning, and you have to add to it. You can't just just preserve the story of it. You have to contribute to it. I mean, that's something that many people always discuss. Like, no, you should preserve it exactly like it was. Not really. There is new things. There is new techniques. There is contemporary things that need to be added to it to make it an enjoyable place for people that use it now, you know? And I think it's important. I think it's something that many people don't understand. To me, that's very enjoyable. Like when I see a house that have these materials and these things that are already valuable and give it that value on top of it, I think it's one of the most
enjoyable,
yeah, nice feelings that you can have.
Okay, thank you, Fernando. Thank you for the interview. We look forward to seeing you in the future and maybe invite you back to another podcast.
That'll be great. Well, thank you very much. You did a great job asking all these questions.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.